Hello and welcome to How to Learn a Language. Yep, the name says it all. I'm Lindsay from Lindsay Does Languages, and I'm here to help you learn languages better, any language, any level. On this podcast, you'll get jargon-free linguistics insights to level up your fluency, practical mindset tips to tackle those inevitable learning wobbles, personal language diaries from me where I share my own progress and honest experiences, and exclusive looks behind the scenes of Language Life, my coaching program that helps people speak fearlessly and intuitively by taking control of their learning without pressure or one-size-fits-all methods. If you are ready to move past perfectionism and finally start speaking the language you want fearlessly, confidently, then you are in the right place. Let's dive in. There's definitely a bit of a trope, bit of a stereotype that when people visit India, they come back and it's like, oh, I'm changed. It's amazing, amazing. Well, did you know in India this happens? And it's, I've been reluctant to make this episode for that reason, because I don't want you to perceive me in that way, because that's not really what this is. But there's definitely a lot of things that India taught me, reminded me really about language learning. So I wanted to cover some of those today in this episode and just talk to you about what I learned from India when it comes to languages. So if you don't know, in India, I believe there's, if you include English, 23, and I don't think they're called official languages. They're called something ever so slightly different, but there's 23 languages, including English, that are recognized and spoken. And then there are a lot more than that exist, but don't have that level of national recognition in quite the same way. So that's a lot. I mean, India is a big country, but that is still a lot of languages to coexist. And that's the first thing that India really reinforced for me, is how multiple languages can coexist and things still get done. Because I think it's easy to look to somewhere else, like maybe China is a really good example, a really good comparison, because obviously similar population size, similar in the sense that there's many, many languages, but dissimilar in the sense that in China, in, I want to say like the 50s, when they had the whole pinyin thing, they standardized, quote unquote, and taught this one variety countrywide, more or less. And that isn't quite the same. And you could argue that English plays that role in India, but there are still a lot of people in India that don't speak English. It's not an assumption that you could make that everyone will speak English. And so, English aside, right, India has gone down this different route to China, where rather than one language rules them all, it's not the same across the board. The same thing, you could say, oh, it's Hindi. Hindi is like the one language. But in the South, I met so many people that did not speak Hindi at all. They spoke more English than Hindi. So it's just not one brush of language rule across the whole country. It's just not the same. But at the same time, things are still getting done. And it's so good. It's so refreshing and exciting to see that coexist, especially, nowadays when there's all sorts of things going on. People are arguing and fighting, and there's wars, and there's that kind of lack of coexistence, if you like. To see that in real time is inspiring and exciting, and it definitely makes you curious to learn more about India. The second thing, the necessity to learn a language isn't always geography. So coming back to that point on Hindi and maybe thinking, okay, Hindi is like the top dog language, everyone knows it. No. In the South, people that we stayed with in homestay knew much more English than Hindi. And even the children learning in school, Hindi was like the third language. So it was Malayalam, English, and then Hindi, right? So it's not just about geography of, oh yeah, we live in India, we learn Hindi. No, there's this different thing going on there. But then my mind was absolutely blown when people from a different state, this was in Kerala, people from a different state, from Hyderabad, trying to think what state, I can't remember exactly, but from Hyderabad they spoke Telugu, so Telangana, I think is the state, and they could not communicate. They came to stay at the homestay for one night. They could not communicate with the family. They were communicating in a kind of broken English between them. We were having better conversations as like native English speakers and native Malayalam speakers, having better conversations in our mix of language than these people were. And it could just be that, like, you know, to be fair, they were quite an awkward family that had come to stay for that one night. So maybe that was why. But I just thought it was interesting that it's not just what is geographically close, what is therefore necessary to learn. It's not always about that. Number 3, and very much a reinforcement, it never hurts to learn thank you in a local language. So even if you're going somewhere, there is a majority language that is spoken, but there's perhaps a minoritized language that is also spoken, it's not going to be a bad thing to make the littlest of effort to learn how to say thank you in that local language. It's like if I were to go to a Welsh-speaking part of Wales and speak English, that's fine, it's acceptable, but it really does not take me much effort to learn thank you in Welsh and say that in Welsh if I know the people around me are Welsh speakers. Just a better experience for everyone. Just that tiny little effort just makes the world a better place. It's never ever going to be like a bad thing. Always worth it. Number 4, you never fully know your own language. Again, massively reinforced from visiting India. So like I say, English, relatively widely spoken, definitely not by everyone. But my English is not the same. My English in the UK is not my English in India. And I very much adapted and picked up these new words and phrases. So, for example, I have worked in the past in retail. I worked for 5 months in a pub. What could you call that? Service, hospitality, that's the word. 5 months. But in those positions of like service roles, I would feel so uncomfortable if anyone ever called me ma'am. Like, oh, it makes me shiver. Like, oh, no, don't call me that. But in India, no, not the same reaction at all. So thank you, sir, and thank you, ma'am, like adding on the sir, adding on the ma'am just became default for me. You know, saying, hello, sir, thank you, sir, can you help, sir? Like all of those things, just adding on the sir, adding on the ma'am, like I would never do ever at home. But in India, yeah, I learned a lot. And I learned a lot as well in terms of like vocab and these differences and some things that maybe were influenced from Hindi and other languages. So like, for example, when you would see adverts for homes, rather than like 2-bed, it would be 2 BHK. And then prices, like a high number prices, would be in things like crore and lakh. And don't ask me because I'm like not number literate. Like that is my weak spot when it comes to learning other languages. And I cannot remember the exact specifics of how many thousands a crore and a lakh is. But they're high numbers and they're not, you know, they are just understood. Like in, you know, within Indian spoken English, right? Then there's all the vocab. So like bus stand means bus station. You'll see gravy on a menu. And to me, my like British mind thinks that's the kind of thing you pour over a Sunday lunch, that brown, like liquid goop, you know? No. Gravy is just curry sauce, a wet curry gravy, right? And then shifted. This was another really fun one where you'd see maybe a shop had moved and the sign would say, this shop has shifted. And I loved that. I love these little quirks where I understand it perfectly, but it's not the way that I would say it at all. And I've never seen or heard it said in that way until going to India. And then you see it all the time, you hear it all the time, and it just becomes your new normal version of that language. Happy journey was another one. On the train tickets in Mumbai, you see it says at the top, happy journey. And people then say that to you when you're like, ask for direction and then catch the train. Oh, happy journey. And it's like, it's so nice because we in like British English maybe just say like bon voyage. Did we just say the French? I don't know. Like, so it was really cool to see these different alterations, these different versions of words that can still be really clearly understood, but were brand new to me. So the fact that you never fully know your own language is always a good lesson to be reinforced. And that also leads into my final point, which is that code switching is life. Code switching, when you are switching between languages or even language varieties sometimes to kind of accommodate to who you're speaking with. Like, it's the most normal thing in the world. And it often gets like kind of degraded or belittled to be like, oh yes, that minority group over there, they code switch all the time. And no, everybody code switches. So switching up my English to adapt to who I was speaking with in India, that is life. And you see it all the time. It's not just me doing that as an English speaking tourist. It's everyone, whether they're switching language, style, words. It is just the default mode. And that's the same, regardless of how many languages are spoken. Even if you live in a country where one language is spoken, the style, the variety is still likely to be altered ever so slightly, depending on who that person is speaking with. So there we go. I hope you enjoyed this. Just something I wanted to share, and maybe I'll do more of these from different places because there's all sorts of things all the time. I'm always thinking about language learning and it's always top of mind. And, when you go to somewhere new, and there's so much to discover, it's just, what is there about language here? So it's always really interesting. And if you are thinking, I'm excited, I'm inspired, maybe you want to go to India, maybe you want to go somewhere else and explore a new language, maybe you've got a trip already planned and you're not sure on the language, I have something that will be very, very useful for you. It is the Essential Vocab List. You can download this for free, and I will put the link in the show notes so you can get your copy of that. And enjoy. I hope that's useful for your next trip, and I'll speak to you very soon. Thank you so much for listening to How to Learn a Language. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening to this so you never miss the next one. And if you're ready to take your language learning to the next level and speak with confidence without the pressure or perfectionism, check out Language Life. You can find all the details and join at lindsaydoeslanguages.com/LL. Until next time, stay fearless, stay curious, and remember, confidence is your best accent.